Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, dude, I never knew you took that photo.
Ooh, fancy.
That's it.
The road one. He has a top wrap. 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, Lee Labrada here, and today I am honored and privileged to be with my good friend Terrence Ruffin, who is a extraordinary classic bodybuilding athlete. You guys already know that he was first runner-up at the Mr. Olympia, first runner-up at the Arnold Classic, and you are just banging on the door. I can relate to that.
Yeah. I'm getting close. Yeah. I'm going. The Arnold class is coming up soon, so hopefully we can move up just that one spot this year. Yeah.
That's right. Well, that one spot is a big spot. You're getting ready.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's been a long road. I mean, I turned pro in 2014 at 21 years old in bodybuilding.
That's amazing.
And you know, I didn't do my first pro show until 2016, and you know, won the Tampa Pro, went to the Olympia in classic physique, and you know, I got ninth my first year. So I've been slowly trying to slowly building until now I'm here.
That's amazing, and you've done a great job, and people know you not just for your great physique, but they know you also for your posing. And that's one of the things that you and we talked before, and we decided that we wanted to teach you guys some of the things that we know about posing, old school, new school, and classical bodybuilding posing and presentation.
It's gonna be fun.
Yes, it sure will. So you know, let me ask you something. I mean, what do you think you know, creates good posing? What do you think are the keys to good posing?
I think just in general, or routine, or
just in general. I mean, just conceptually, what makes for a good poser?
I think one, they need to understand their body, their strengths and weaknesses, and I notice a lot of bodybuilders aren't able to quite see that. You know, they hire a coach and they can move them around, or hire a posing coach, they move them, but I think a great poser should be able to see those things themselves. I think that when learning posing, definitely learn your mandatories first, because that's your base, and then you can add variations in there, and then from there you build upon that when adding transitions and things of that nature. That's kind of the way I like to think of it there too. 100%.
So I agree with you that you need to know your body first. You need to know what your strengths and your weaknesses are, so that you can hide the weaknesses and you can emphasize the strengths. And that is particularly important in freestyle posing. You know, because you know, obviously you have your compulsory or your mandatory poses that you have to do for the judges, but during the freestyle round, I think what's lost on a lot of the athletes is that they have the opportunity there to show off their strengths. You know, and another piece of it, Terrence, that you know, that really comes to mind for me is these transitions. For me, transitions are dynamic poses. They're moving poses.
Yeah.
You know, so you're posing whether you're doing a static pose, you know, like a front lat spread or something, you know, or you're shifting into another one. You're posing the whole time, right?
I totally agree. I tell people when they get on stage, imagine like a person taking pictures nonstop, not just when you hit that mandatory or something like that. If they shouldn't be able to get a bad shot of you.
That's right. Yeah. That's a great you know rule right there. Is make your posing so good that no matter when the photographer takes that picture, they can't get a bad shot of you on stage. So whether they get you in the pose, or whether they get you transitioning into another pose, you know,
those are some of the best pictures in bodybuilding. You know, even more like closer to the day, I can think of like the one where Jay Cutler's stomping his foot, or Ronnie Coleman reaching back for that
for that lat spread.
Yeah. Those are some of the coolest poses, the ones where people are transitioning, for sure.
You know what that brought to mind was, you know, back in the day when they created the movie Pumping Iron. You know, Ed Corney was the world's premier poser at that time, and I remember seeing the book Pumping Iron, and it had a sequence of photos in there of Ed Corney, you know, during the pose routine, and had all his transitions.
That's cool.
And such, and you could just see like just how dynamic, you know, the transitions were. It was just amazing.
Ed Corney was definitely ahead of his time with the posing for sure.
He really was. So was he an influence on you, and were there other influences on you? I know I had my influence.
Yeah. Ed Corney, I did like him. He wasn't one of my main guys that that influenced me. I think you were honestly the biggest. I loved Bob Paris.
Great guy. Great
Definitely, yeah. I think he was more. I talked to one of my friends, Rachel, and she says a lot of the best posers, they aren't just bodybuilders, they're artists, and
Yes.
and that's how they convey the art through bodybuilding.
That's right.
And I would totally agree, and I see a lot of that with the best posers. Even they're multi-talented. Like say for instance Kai, he's known as a good poser. He's also a painter,
Right.
An actor and things of
Right.
that nature. And I
Right.
see that a lot.
And I see a lot of like where when Kai Green poses, I see a lot of that dynamic expression of motion. It's not just static poses. There's just a lot of fluidity and art, and dance involved with it. And so it's it really is an art. It's balancing the dynamic poses, the transitions, the fluid movement along with the static poses, which we all do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, for me, some of my influences were Ed Corney, which I mentioned. Muhammad Maknawi was another one, right?
Yeah.
And who could forget his posing routine? From the Mr. Olympia contest, in the early '80s, it was amazing.
His twisting shots, where he would show off his forearms and his back, were like some of my favorite poses. Yeah.
Yes, he was very dramatic with the hand gestures and whatnot. And that's one of the things. It's interesting. I know I'm going off a little bit on a tangent here, but the hands are so important for,
for
posing, right?
It is.
And what I teach the people that follow me for posing is that the hands are expressive. When you move between poses, your hands are open and graceful.
Yep.
But then when you come in and then you clench,
it's like
you show power.
Yeah.
So it's grace and power.
Yeah. I say the same thing.
Yeah. Grace and power.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So do you think that the judges put enough emphasis on the freestyle posing presentation?
I don't think they put enough emphasis on it. I think what they use that for is maybe helping them choose the first call out to a certain degree, but not. I don't think it plays a huge importance anymore in today's bodybuilding.
Do you think it places it plays a more important part, say, in classic bodybuilding?
Unfortunately, no, I don't think so. I mean, it's really sad because at the Arnold, we weren't even given the opportunity to win like a best poser award. It was only for bodybuilding. And Sergio was a great poser that year, don't get me wrong. But it would have been cool to have classic guys also up for that type of award, or even as a separate one,
Right.
Yeah. So hopefully in the future they add a little bit more importance to it. But I honestly will say that I think they appreciate it, but like scoring wise and placing wise, I don't think it really plays much of a role.
Right. You know what I always tell my students, and I tell this to my son Hunter, who, as you already know, is an IFBB pro also. I tell him that human nature being what it is, that when you present something beautiful, when you present that body in motion, as a judge, you can't help but look at and admire the fluidity of the body, and I think that it makes an indelible impression, not just in the mind of the judge, in the eye of the judge, but in the eyes of the audience as well. Even if it's just at a subconscious level, and then everything else being equal. Okay, because it won't overcome if you're not in condition, right? But everything else being equal, it could give you the edge.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, because it's like they saw something when you when you were transitioning. It's almost like a statue of motion. You know, and it creates an impression. Just in the back of your mind. You're looking at that athlete more.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
I'll tell you that from my own experience with the competing in the Mr. Olympia competitions back in the late '80s and early '90s. I wasn't the biggest guy on stage, as you already know. Not even close. Not even close.
Yeah.
But when I set out to do my posing routines, I always try to select music that was memorable and timeless. You know, I didn't pose to things that were popular back in the day. Okay, because you know, like if you guys were looking at my posing routines from back in the '80s, and you saw me posing to Madonna music, and nothing wrong with Madonna music. To listen to her
She's a
dance,
nice lady.
but not for classical bodybuilding, you know. But what I think happens is that if you pick timeless music, you know, classical music, beautiful music, and you put a choreographed routine to it, creates something that's kind of timeless.
I agree with that. Yeah.
You know, and so when people see what I did back in the day, maybe I wasn't the most impactful bodybuilder in terms of my physique, but I'm a memorable bodybuilder because of the presentation and the way I presented my physique.
I totally agree. Even before I kind of reached where I am now with my placings, I was being mentioned, you know, in the names of the top guys because of my posing. I placed 9th at the Olympia, which isn't bad, but every single year I was talked about like in the top 5. I was already getting events more so than the other guys in the top 5. I was in guest posings and seminars solely because of my posing.
Because of the posing.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right. And you do have quite the following for your posing. And,
yeah.
And I tell people that Terrence is carrying the torch forward. There's hope for bodybuilding.
Oh man.
No, listen, it's all good. In seriousness, what I've noticed of late, you know, and just lately, is that the guys seem to be making an effort again.
I agree.
Would you agree with that?
I totally agree, and it's a pleasant thing to see.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes.
Whether it's the amateurs, or even I've noticed some bodybuilders putting a lot more effort into it. I've had a couple clients here and there.
Some of the open guys.
Yeah, some of the open guys.
Yeah, are actually starting
yeah.
to move pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, and what I like to tell people is, listen, you've put so many hours into developing your physique.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've done all the gut busting work, you've done the prep, you've starved yourself. I mean, you've done all the sacrifices. So why would you not put as much effort into your posing and creating something that's very memorable? You know.
I totally agree, and like I think with bodybuilding and posing, I think that's how we reach more people. That's how we make it more entertaining.
That's right.
I talked to, you know, a couple guys that are outside the industry, but very well known in theirs, like wrestling and acting. I know a couple actors, and they say, hey, if you guys put more effort into that posing part, then I think you guys could grow the sport of bodybuilding like exponentially. And I totally agree with that.
What does it take to be a great poser, Terrence?
Oh man, that's a lot. Oh, like I said before, I mean, definitely understanding your own body, understanding
your strengths and your weaknesses,
right? Understanding like shapes and lines. You know, some people, they may know they have a weakness somewhere, but they hit like a pose and like their arms up here, like their arms not like in line properly.
Right.
You know, so understanding like stuff like that is important. What looks good. I think posing routine wise, like you said, choosing the proper music can, even if you did the same routine, choosing the proper music is going to elevate that routine quite a bit.
That's right.
You know.
How do you go about choosing your music?
Well, one, it has to have an impact on me first.
You have to feel it.
I have to feel it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to feel it. That's the first step. Other things I think about are changes in like the tempo of the song, so it's not all slow, because people start to get a little bit bored.
Right. You can't put them to sleep.
Yeah,
it has
yeah.
to have ebbs and flows, right?
So slow parts and then some
dynamics.
Yeah, totally agree. I like to think of what I do kind of like how I'm a fan of Bruce Lee and Ip Man. So you know, Bruce Lee learned from him, and he took everything he learned from him, but then kind of created his own thing. And so I like to take a lot of the styles of music used back in the day, the classical stuff, but the music I use has a slight twist. So it's still a lot of it's instrumentals, a lot of it's classic, but a little bit of new school involved too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? You mentioned the martial arts and Bruce Lee and Ip Man, and my first sport was Taekwondo.
Oh, cool.
When I was 8 years old, I started with Taekwondo, and I did that for a few years. And I remember learning the katas. You know, the different katas, right?
I think you did that in one where you went here and then you jumped to the
That's right. And then came in with.
Yeah.
That?
I've seen you do this a couple times, like here.
And then this type of thing. And so It's really interesting, but martial arts helps you to develop body coordination. You know that you can use in posing as well. It's funny that you mentioned that, right?
It is. I've told people this before too. Like, you can find inspiration for posing anywhere. Like you said, like in martial arts, and some people find it in like different comic book stuff or different things like that. You can find different movements that'll look good in actual posing.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's one of the things that you're really very good at is breaking away from like the traditional static, you know, lat spread, front double bicep, and adding your own twist to things.
Yeah.
You know, and incorporating, you know, poses that, you know, might seem a little unorthodox.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I definitely try to do unique things and try to create different transitions and try to keep it interesting for sure. Another thing I think too with good routines is sometimes people will, I guess the only word I can think of is stay in the same plane too long. Like they'll hit all the just front shots, then they'll do all the just side shots, and then back. I like to do a couple front, then maybe I'll drop down and do something like kneeling from this way.
Yeah.
Then I'll hop up and do something on this side to keep it interesting. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I try not to repeat the same poses more than.
You know what?
Yeah.
That's one of my you know, my basic rules as well. Is try not to repeat the same pose. You know, and a lot of times when I'm putting together, let's talk about putting together a pose.
Okay.
You know, it's funny because what I'll do is I'll first select the music. Right? We'll select the music, which is a personal choice. We've been talking a lot about classical music and, you know, movie soundtracks and themes and things without words, but it's obviously it's personal.
Yeah.
You know, so for some people that's rock, for other people it's rap. You know, for other people it's jazz. I mean, it just runs the whole gamut. So you have to pick something that's personal to you and that you feel. But once you select the music, what I like to do is I like to go through and I like to break up the music into different sections.
Okay.
You know, like where this section here is a little slower, that section is a little faster, and then I just make myself a laundry list of all the different poses.
I've done that before.
Okay,
yeah.
and then literally I'll just try to plug and play them into different parts.
Interesting.
And I'll go, how does this look here? You know, how does that look there? You know, and just kind of try to daisy chain them that way.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it just kind of allows you to kind of just mix and match. It's like playing with a Lego set.
Okay.
Plug it into different posing Lego pieces.
That I do that too. Yeah. I mean, with this last routine I did, I looked at some your 1991 routine, and I found 2 poses I wanted to add into the routine I did this past weekend at your show. And yeah, I was just trying to figure out.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out where I could put them. I gotta say that one where at the very end of the 91 where you had one leg in front, you here, and then you spent, and then you went up, and you were at like an angle, and then you came down and you were like this.
Right.
And that was very difficult to do.
That was probably my most difficult routine.
Because when you have to have faith, like it wasn't you just like standing up and then just like spreading your legs. You were like falling into that pose. You have to have a lot of faith that you're gonna move that leg out and catch yourself.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the bullfighter routine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the bullfighter routine, and that move when I came up like that and then came down, that was like the driving the sword into the bull.
Now that you say that, I see a lot of it.
25 years ago, and it was a dance.
I think I see a lot more of it now, especially when you were like some of the movements you were doing. It's like having a red.
The bullfighter.
Yeah.
That's where that came from. The bullfighter.
I totally see it now. Yeah.
Watch it again, and this time just remember the bullfighter.
That's cool. That's really cool.
I worked with a Spanish choreographer on that one. A guy that was belonged to a ballet dance troupe in Madrid in the late 80s. And and he gave me the inspiration for those moves. You know, I put the routine together myself, but the idea, the concept of the bullfighter to that piece of music, came about from working with him. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So it was good. So you can draw inspiration from watching ballet sometimes. You know, those kind of things. Yeah, it's very very interesting stuff. So. What do you think that what direction do you think that classic physique is heading in? you know, in the next few years?
I think that I think with all they were changing the weight limits quite a bit for a while. I think we're at a pretty good spot right now. I don't think they need to raise it anymore. You know, I'm pretty close to what some of the guys would weigh from my height in like the 80s.
And may I ask how tall you are?
I'm 5'5".
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay,
did.
so we're about the same height.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I used to compete at a $180, $185.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
This last Olympia I was 177, so I'm getting there. Yeah. So, yeah. So I think we're at a good spot with all of that right now. I think the direction it's going. I like this. Each and every year they're increasing the prize money and things like that. We're getting more respect.
Right. And you should.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the first year we were just on the expo stage and it was done in like. We were done in like 4 hours. They had our pre-judging. We took an hour off and we finished. And then this year we were on the big stage, which was, you know, really, really nice. I think that if bodybuilding or the IFBB is to grow a little bit, I don't know, full mainstream, but more, it's going to be through classic physique.
And we see classic physique just literally exploding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even at the local level, the number of entrants that are coming, that are pouring in,
Mm-hmm.
it's really, really driving the growth.
You know, I look back at what I look back at your time and how you were on like all these different networks, Fox, CNN, ESPN. In the 80s is probably my favorite era, and it's pretty interesting to see how things started to kind of climax in that time frame with the look and with the opportunities you guys had. And at some point it started to fade away. We lost all those national TV spots. Things started to change, and I think with classic physique we can kind of bring that back.
I think that that's very possible as well. You know, and it's refreshing to see the presentations that you guys are bringing to the you know, to the stage. You know, so. I cannot thank you enough for our conversation today. It's really, really great catching up with you. Are there any other words of wisdom that you want to share with our viewers?
Oh man. Well, you know, people always ask me like, how long should I pose for? You know, I don't have an answer for them, but I will tell you, like, the best of the best, every free opportunity they have, they're working on their craft. You know.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and I would echo that sentiment. You know, and people will ask, well, you know, how does somebody move as smooth as Terrence? How does he do that? You know, and it's rote practice, guys. I mean, the more you do it, the more second nature it becomes, the more balance you have, and you know, and the easier it becomes when you actually get up on stage and compete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, cool.
Sweet. So I figured that was
good.
Did we cover everything?
I think we covered a lot.
And if
I don't
there's
know.
anything else that you want to cover, we can always inject it while we're